us now Doug Heye, Republican strategist, former RNC communications director, and Julie Rajinski, a Democratic strategist and co-founder of the advocacy group Lift Our Voices. This is the headline in the Trump-friendly New York Post this morning: World War fee. So, Doug, my question to you is, if you truth serumed Republicans in the Senate this morning, how nervous would they be?
Oh, they're very nervous. And look, the word tariff is typically the fingernails on the chalkboard for Republicans. That it hasn't been publicly at this point tells you how much the party has changed under Donald Trump. But privately, there are a lot of conversations happening, House side and Senate side, with Republicans on nervousness on what this is and what its impacts are. But also what I'm hearing and seeing downtown Washington, where a lot of trade associations, a lot led by Republicans or former Republican staffers, are signaling their nervousness as well. They may not want to come out and condemn it, but they're talking about impacts and what they may be. And what I saw from Jay Timmons, the longtime head of the National Association of Manufacturers, pretty important part of this conversation that we've had over the past few weeks, is he's asking a lot of questions. He wants more information to know exactly what's going to happen. That tells you that that sector of the economy is very nervous about what's happening right now.
I want to play something that Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana said about this. Let's listen.
The president's saying if you're a business in a foreign country and you want to sell to America, move your business here and hire Americans. And in the long run, he's right. But as I've said repeatedly, in the long run, we're all dead. Short run matters too.
In the long run, we're all dead. The short run matters too. So let's talk about the short run. I mean, we were looking at market futures today, which sometimes predict where the market's headed. Sometimes it's not quite an accurate prediction, but they're down. They're down a lot right now. So in the short term, do you think Trump will blink on any of this if he continues to see numbers like this?
First of all, I think Senator Kennedy was talking about being dead in the short term politically, because I think this is going to cost the Republicans tremendously. And it's not just the tariffs, it's the uncertainty that the markets are roiling upon the American economy. I think the president does have a tendency to blink when the markets go down. He always kind of correlates financial success to the markets. And so we've seen him blink before. We saw him blink on the tariffs with respect to Canada the first time when the markets responded. You know, I'm not so sure that this constant back and forth and this constant blinking that the markets have to send him a message to do is necessarily good for the economy or the markets either. Because again, people and investors and businesses need stability. They need a roadmap as to what's going to happen, to the extent that the government can provide one. Of course, there are always unexpected consequences to things. But this constant chaos, which is what's been unleashed here on our economy, is what's going to roil the markets. So whether he backs down on this or not, I'm not so sure it's going to work anymore, because it's the chaotic nature of his decision-making that's causing as many of these problems as the tariffs are themselves.
So the markets are one thing, right? And we know, 60% of Americans own stock, maybe more. But there are people who don't. Is there a way that Trump can spin this, that he's fighting for, the people, or is he risking even that group too?
It's your 401ks. It's not people who are day trading sitting at their computer. I mean, it's people whose retirement savings are tied up in the markets. I mean, I look at my own parents who are retired, who by no means are wealthy. They're living in some ways off of the 401k that they worked many, many, many years to have money for. And now all of a sudden that's going down. They're not sure if Social Security is going to be here with all the cuts that are going to probably be made to Social Security. And already you're starting to see the ramifications of that with DOGE. You're talking about retirees. You're talking about people who live on fixed incomes, who rely on Medicare, rely on Social Security, rely on their 401ks to survive. And all of those are under threat right now in the first 3 months of this administration. It's just unfathomable that we're putting people who worked their lives to get to this position in this situation.
Doug, and this is not hyperbolic. This upends the global trade system that has been in place for decades. It is a complete reworking of that. It sends tariffs higher than Smoot-Hawley levels. Anyone? The point here, Doug, is this is big. And I do wonder if anyone appreciates what the political implications of it might be.
Yeah, look, I first heard the term Smoot-Hawley when I was a junior in high school, praise to Sister Kathleen, who taught me that at Bishop McGinnis. Most voters aren't fixated on things like that. Those are big terms and big legislation that passed sometimes decades ago. What they are concerned about is, as sort of the senator referenced, the short term on this. They don't think about global trade conflicts and upending systems. Those are very important conversations, but their day-to-day lives, whether you're buying olive oil at your grocery store or you're buying socks at Walmart, as those prices go up, as we've seen inflation really hit voters over the past several years on seemingly everything that voters spend money on, that's, I think, where the real political problem could be here for Republicans, is if we see these kinds of massive price increases then taken away and then put on something else, taken away then, and put on a third thing or a 12th thing at that point, that kind of chaos with a real economic impact, that's where Republicans are nervous about this right now. Donald Trump is always going to say that this is about fixing an unfair fight. He's always going to say that this is about standing up for the people. He's been very consistent on that messaging and on this issue for not just since 2015 when he took the escalator ride down to start his candidacy, but for decades now. He's been remarkably consistent on that. But the impacts for voters, that's where Republicans are nervous right now.
All right, Doug Hyde, Julie Ruzynski, thanks to both of you. A lot going on, some big changes here.